With Shomi Yamamura's victory of Vira at calling Singapore, the question of what to name with Censor has become more important than ever. Today I'm going to give you my list of names to help you make your choice next time you hit. The most important thing to remember when picking for Censor is that the correct choice is often very contextual. Even if a card is clearly the correct name and picking blindly, it stops being correct when your opponent has already played every copy of it in their deck. Other basic rules are as follows. Try to name red cards since your opponent can still pitch the cards that you name. Consider what information has been revealed to you. If your opponent hits you with Endless Arrow and their arsenal is the only card in their hand, name Endless Arrow. Actually pay attention to what cards your opponent is pitching, as the cards are less likely to be in your opponent's hand. It's also possible to do things like put Censor on the bottom of your deck with Sync Blow or Enlightened Strike to counter pitch deck against heroes that are unlikely to shuffle their deck. Just remember to decline the shuffle and sound the alarm when you are doing this. Finally, a rule that I personally like to follow is to try to name attack reactions, because then you get to make more informed decisions when blocking. Gravy Bones, Conqueror of the High Seas, or Golden Tipple. While the finals of Calling Singapore did a great job showing how powerful naming Conqueror of the High Seas can be, you should also keep in mind that Gravy's hand usually has a Golden Tipple in it that they'd like to play. Dio, Boom Grenade, or Spark of Genius. While it's really tempting to name Cerebellum Processor, Spark of Genius is the primary way of actually getting it out. Furthermore, once they actually have Cerebellum in play, your priority should instead shift to denying them action points. As Boom Grenade is the most common source of their action point generation, it's a pretty effective target. Buffin, Copper Cog. Most Buffin lists are on 10 plus Copper Cogs, so naming it is good even though it's blue. Most cog payoffs are also generally replaceable with one another, so naming one isn't as good as you want it to be a lot of the time. Syndra, whatever they revealed off Ravenous Rabble or Ancestral Empowerment. Ancestral Empowerment is the easiest way for them to force free mask momentum triggers, so naming it can deny mask for a turn. Phi, Lava Burst or Phoenix Flame. Lava Burst is generally the best card they play on most of their turns, but if they only have a 2-card hand, naming Phoenix Flame is probably the best choice. Katsu, Bonds of Ancestry or Surging Strike. Bonds is an insanely buff rate card that is often a part of Katsu's most powerful turns. Surging Strike is the start of their combo line and often a 6 of. The most important part of both of these cards, though, is that they don't cost 0, so your opponent can't just discard it to Katsu to carry on with their turn. Assassins and Rangers. For Assassins and Rangers, only one card will be given to name, because Codex of Frailty is almost always the right target. Assassins. Think of the Mantle. Think of the Mantle is capable of turning any attack into a Bonds of Agony that threatens your life total in hand, so stopping it can give you space to breathe, or to know what you're actually trying to block before it turns into something you have to block. Riptide. Whatever they banish with Return Fire. It gives you free life and stops their entire turn if they don't have New Horizons, as Return Fire is not an optional trigger. Marlin. King Shark Harpoon. This is generally the best arrow in their deck against Ira. KO, Bloodish Bellow, or Wild Ride. These are the primary Mana Claw enablers in the deck, so by naming them you weaken most turns. Levia, Bloodish Bellow, or Shadow Realm Horror. These cards are generally key to Levia's power turns. Prism, Angelic Wrath, or Herald of Triumph. Angelic Wrath is their primary way to force through Herald on hits, so it's a good name even though they're generally not playing red ones. Alternatively, Herald of Triumph is the hardest Herald to pop, and there are none of them in the deck, and that's why I chose it over Herald of Erudition. Kasai. Draw Swords or Blade Runner. When choosing against Kasai, it's important to figure out which build of Kasai they are on. You should default to Blade Runner before you identify their build, but naming Draw Swords against the Draw Swords build can often lower their damage in a turn by 3. Furthermore, don't be afraid of naming blood on their hands if they have enough copper to kill you next turn with it. Dorinthia. Singing Steelblade or Warrior's Valor. Naming Singing Steelblade means that Dorinthia has to actually draw the correct attack reaction on a turn to punish you. For Warrior's Valor is usually the most played card in their decks. Naming it will often either go against Source for the turn or Force of Refaction Filter's Break. Name Blade Runner if they are on Hatchet. Earth Heroes, Felling of the Crown, or Plowunder. Generally, the biggest goal against Earth Heroes is to make sure that it takes as long as possible for them to get turned on. Stopping Decompose is step 1 of doing this. Vinset, Malefic Incantation, or Coal. Malefic Incantation is the primary enabler and often a 6 of. Coal is a very powerful card that is hard to play around, so just one turn without it can make life much easier. Blood deck cards and Banish are also good choices to go with if they have multiple copies of the same card to force through some damage. Acilio, Gone in a Flash. Gone in a Flash is easily the best card in Acilio, and the only time that you shouldn't be naming it against them is whenever they have all three of them in graveyard. If this does occur in your game somehow, name Blast to Oblivion. Kato, Energy Potion or Potion of Deja Vu. Most Kano turns are dealing ship damage and attempting to deploy items for the combo turn. Something to keep in mind though is that if the Censor has to go again off of a Quicken token, it can be right to name it for Wildfire so you're safe to push for Lethal later in the turn. Guardians that aren't Jarl. Whenever they reveal the clashes or Pummel. Pummel is trivial to bluff in Guardian and can be hard to block, so stopping them from getting to play it makes blocking Disruption much easier. Ira, Dual Threat or Command and Conquer. If you're about to arsenal a card, name Command and Conquer. If they have a 5-card hand, name Dual Threat. The description below includes a list with the cards to name for each hero. If there are any good choices that you think I left out, leave a comment with your idea.